How's it going, everybody? It's no secret that the Dodgers and the Padres are in the midst of a budding rivalry. Both teams have really good and really exciting young cores, and LA and San Diego had the two best records in the National League in 2020. Both are projecting to be just as good, if not better, in 2021, so it's looking like it'll be a tight race in the NL West. Over the next few days, I want to look at each team's starters at each position and directly compare them head-to-head. This might get long, so I want to split it up into a few videos. Today will be the infield, the next video will be the outfield and the bench, and the last one will be pitching. I'll be looking at roster resource to determine starting lineups, and I'll use a mix of subjective analysis and some data to make my picks. So you know what, let's just get into it. Let's start behind the plate, where we'll be comparing Will Smith and Austin Nola. Both Smith and Nola debuted in 2019, and both have been quite good in their 2 seasons in the majors. Smith was a top 100 prospect who was expected to be a good hitter for a catcher, but has actually been a great hitter for any position, with a career 144 WRC+, meaning he's been a 44% better hitter than league average, and 23 homers in just 333 career plate appearances. Smith's defense from the eye test has also been very good, as he's a good blocker and has an above-average arm. A quick look at his StatCast numbers shows that his impressive offense probably isn't much of a fluke, as he consistently hits the ball hard, he draws a ton of walks, and he doesn't strike out much. His framing is really bad. Smith wasn't seen as a particularly bad receiver in the minors, so I'm not sure if it's a small sample size issue, or if Smith is having trouble with big league pitching, and I do think he'll improve at it in the next few years, but right now, Smith is pretty clearly a below-average defender when his inability to frame is factored in. Austin Nola, on the other hand, despite 2020 also being his sophomore season, was not a hyped prospect, and he's already 31 years old. He's still been impressive in 2 seasons with Seattle, which led to his trade to San Diego at the 2020 trade deadline. In just under a season's worth of career plate appearances, Nola's put up a very solid 119 WRC+, but what sets him apart from Smith is that he's done so while being a plus defender. While Nola's batted ball StatCast numbers are all worse than Smith's, his framing in 2020 was infinitely better. It's important to note that a 60-game sample size of framing data probably is too small to draw a lot of conclusions from, but if you value defense and a more contact-oriented hitting profile out of your catchers, Nola might be the one for you. All things considered, I'd give Smith a slight edge since his offense projects to be a good amount better than Nola's, but it's probably closer than you think due to Nola's defense. Let's move now to first base, where we have a battle between Eric Hosmer and Max Muncy, 2 veteran lefties. Since Muncy broke onto the scene in 2018, he and Hosmer have had pretty much polar opposite career paths. Muncy came from nowhere to becoming a premier power hitter in 2018 and 19, while Hosmer signed a huge free agent deal to play in San Diego in 2018, but was pretty bad in his first 2 seasons. In 2020, though, Muncy regressed hard, and Hosmer was the one with the breakout year, having his best year at the plate since his 2017 career year with the Royals and the second best year of his career. Looking at their total numbers from 2018 to 2020, it actually really isn't even close. Muncy completely blows Hosmer out of the water. Muncy's outstanding 138 WRC+ not only destroys Hosmer's 97 in that time frame, but it's also higher than Hosmer's small sample size near career year 2020. Muncy had worse StatCast numbers in terms of exit velocity than Hosmer, but he also walks way more often and chases less. Muncy's high walk rate makes him a high floor player, as even when he isn't hitting, he still gets on base well. Just look at Muncy's bad 2020 versus Hosmer's bad 2019. Despite a batting average 70 points lower, Muncy had a higher on base percentage and a higher WRC+ by 9 points. Hosmer's much higher reliance on batted ball luck makes him much less of a known quantity, whereas Muncy is inherently more consistent due to his good eye. So to figure out if Hosmer will continue to be good in 2021 and going forward, we have to look at why his 2020 was so good. Hosmer's big improvement in 2020 was largely due to a higher launch angle than in previous years, as Hosmer is a notorious ground ball hitter that got punished hard by the shift. Hosmer's launch angle was more than 6.5 degrees higher in 2020 than in 2019, and despite the same exit velocity numbers, this resulted in an XBA almost 40 points higher. For those unfamiliar, XBA is expected batting average, which is calculated based on launch angle and exit velocity independent of batted ball luck. This means that for Hosmer going forward, he'll need to maintain this higher launch angle batted ball profile to stay successful. For what it's worth, the Steamer projection system projects Hosmer for a 99 WRC+, and Muncy for a 115. These both seem too low to me, but it shows the projection system side with Muncy's higher floor hitting profile. On defense, Muncy is a little bit better than Hosmer, and he also adds the ability to play second and third base, which is another slight notch in his favor. Considering all this, I'd give Muncy the upper hand over Hosmer in 2021. Our next position is second base, which might have the most question marks out of anywhere on this list. Roster Resource lists San Diego starter as new free agent acquisition Ha-Sung Kim and LA's as super utility man Chris Taylor. Realistically, both these players will be splitting time with others, Kim with Jake Cronenworth and Taylor with top prospect Gavin Lux at some point. Let's just look at Taylor versus Kim for now, though. Kim is relatively unknown, with 2021 going to be his rookie season. I'll point you to the video I made about Kim for a more in-depth look, but here's a quick summary. Kim was a star shortstop in Korea and is only 25 years old, so he still has room to get better. His defense is good enough to be average at short, so it should be quite good at second, and he projects to be a 110 to 120 WRC plus hitter in the majors. Taylor, on the other hand, is a much more projectable player. He was traded to the Dodgers in 2016 and started seeing regular playing time as a utility man in 2017, where he put up an all-star level 4.5 WAR in his breakout season. He hasn't quite reached those heights since, but has consistently been an above-average hitter with great positional flexibility. He also had a great 2020 with a career-high 131 WRC plus in 56 games. He has some strikeout concerns, but he gets on base well, and in 2020 he had a career-high 12% walk rate, which if he can keep up over 162 games should make him an all-star level hitter. Taylor's overall defensive numbers are slightly below average, but that's mostly due to playing a lot of innings at shortstop and center field, where he's honestly a little bit stretched. With a full season at second base or left field, he should be solidly above average with the glove. Overall, Taylor should put up around a 115 WRC plus for 3 to 4 WAR in 2021, swapping between a few positions. So will Kim be able to top that? He's definitely skilled enough to, but there will be an adjustment period for him, at least at the plate. Combine that with the fact he'll have last year's Rookie of the Year runner-up and Jake Cronenworth breathing down his neck if he's slipping up, and I think Kim's rookie season may have some growing pains. I think Kim is definitely good enough to be an all-star in MLB, and he has a higher ceiling than Taylor overall, but tentatively, I'll take Taylor over him for 2021, since he's a much safer pick. Maybe the most contentious pick of this video is going to be at shortstop, where both teams had MVP candidates last year. Fernando Tatis Jr. is one of MLB's most promising young stars, seemingly destined for greatness, while Corey Seager was the best hitter on probably MLB's best team in 2020. A quick look at their Baseball Savant pages shows that they had some of the best StatCast numbers in baseball as well, so their 2020 seasons won't be a fluke. Let's talk Tatis first. Tatis was good pretty much the second he stepped on a major league field, but his great rookie season was cut short by injury in 2019. Tatis's 2020 looked headed for an MVP if it weren't for an end-of-season slump, but he still finished with an excellent 149 WRC plus and a sort of absurd 17 homers in just 59 games. But the real excitement lies in his peripherals and defense. Even though his WRC plus was the same as 2019, Tatis had a 2.5% higher walk rate and most importantly a 6% lower strikeout rate. For a guy like Tatis that has game-changing speed and a ton of pop in his bat, putting the ball in play is huge. Tatis is obviously a great athlete and was predicted to be a good, if not great, fielder, but in 2019 he was actually pretty bad, being hurt by being really error-prone. He mostly fixed those issues in 2020, becoming a well above average fielder with even more room to grow. In 2020, Tatis showed that he can be a top 5 position player in baseball and a true 5 to a player. And the guy is just electric to watch. He reminded me of Mookie Betts last season, where he'd do something exciting almost every game, be it a great play on defense or crushing a massive homer or stretching a single into a double. Corey Seager is certainly less flashy than Tatis, but the two had very similar production in 2020, and Seager has several seasons of solid play to back it up. Seager burst onto the scene in 2015, where he was a September call-up and was so good he was the starting shortstop and third hitter for the team in the playoffs that season. His first 2 full seasons were excellent, with a Rookie of the Year award and 2 Silver Sluggers, but his 2018 and 2019 were derailed by injuries, and he was more good than great. A fully healthy and rejuvenated Seager reminded everyone what he was capable of in 2020 with a 151 WRC+, a career high and the highest on the Dodgers. He was also absurdly good in the postseason, winning the NLCS and World Series MVP awards, racking up 7 homers and 16 RBIs in those 13 games. While great at the plate, Seager was also below average on defense by most metrics last season. Seager's a big guy at 6'4", 215, and always had concerns he could be moved to third base, but he'd been passable at short for most of his career. Again, it isn't fair to draw many conclusions from 60 games of defensive metrics, but prorated to a full season, Seager would have been one of the worst shortstops in baseball. Seager almost definitely won't be that bad over a full season, but it seems likely he won't be any better than average and probably won't reach the defensive peaks of his first couple seasons. Another potential concern with Seager is he's a notoriously aggressive hitter. You aren't too concerned with him not drawing many walks since his quality of contact is so good, but Seager swings at the first pitch as much as any other player in baseball. This can lead to stretches where he's chasing pitches or hitting into outs early in counts without putting up much of a fight. This aggressiveness makes him a somewhat streaky hitter that, when he's locked in, is as good as anybody, but when he isn't, he can be a relative disappointment. So let's put it all together. In terms of hitting, both Seager and Tatis have sparkling peripherals and put together excellent 2020 campaigns that should be repeatable in 2021. I'd put them about even at the plate with maybe a very slight edge to Seager. However, Tatis will almost certainly be a better defender, and he adds a lot of value with his speed, which Seager doesn't have. All things considered, I'll pick Tatis just a hair over Seager. Our last position today is third base, which will be the least contentious of anywhere in the infield. The Padres bring superstar $300 million man Manny Machado, whereas the Dodgers bring Edwin Rios, a 26-year-old with just 139 career plate appearances. Now granted, Rios has been very good in those 139 plate appearances, with 12 homers and a 152 WRC+. But in 2020, Manny Machado regained the form that earned him that mega deal and cemented him as one of baseball's best players, putting up a career-high walk rate and a career-low strikeout rate while maintaining his Gold Glove caliber defense at third. Rios' lack of prospect pedigree, below-average third-base defense, and strikeout concerns means he probably won't ever be better than just pretty good despite his crazy power. There have been talks the Dodgers are about to re-sign Justin Turner as well, but for what it's worth, I'd put Machado a little bit ahead of Turner too. So we'll notch this one as a win for the Padres, and our running tally is 3-2 in favor of the Dodgers. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and the analysis. Again, the next one will be about outfielders and bench players, and should be out in a couple days. As always, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the content, sub to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.